From Nutrien Solutions, this is Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, July 12th, 2021. We'll start with the public weather advisories here across Canada, where you see the red shading. That's where we're talking about heat warnings that are in effect. And then the gray shading is where we've got some air quality alerts in effect due to the wildfire smoke in the region. So a very summer-like look to the advisory map here on Monday morning. We'll start with the visible satellite picture here across North America as the sun comes up. And you can see a few things, including the big ridge of high pressure that has kept things sunny and hot across the western United States, record-breaking heat across parts of the western U.S., and then keeping things on the warm and dry side across the Prairie provinces this morning as well. Aside from a little ridge-riding disturbance, you can see pushing through southern Manitoba this morning. You see the little kind of swirl right there, kicking off some showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder. And then we've had this big kind of cutoff low across the Corn Belt, across the Midwest in the United States. It's kept things really pretty cool, gloomy, and rainy over the last 3 to 4 days. And then you can see kind of caught up within all that, more of the haze here. That is the wildfire smoke that we're dealing with from some of the fires here that have been going early on in this fire weather season. Now we'll look at the radar picture, and there you can see the showers making their way across southern Manitoba. Maybe a few raindrops in the Winnipeg area. This is generally, very light in nature, and it will be moving on off to the east and out of the area as we get later on into the day, and that's going to set up a relatively dry start to the week here, a warm and dry start to the week across the Prairie provinces. Now we'll look at this with the NAM model, take a look at the next 4 days precipitation forecast, and again, we'll bring it back here to Monday. Here's a little disturbance that's making its way through eastern portions of Manitoba here, or making its way east through southern portions of Manitoba as we head through the day today, and then out of here by the time we get to the evening. And then that's really going to set up a pretty quiet week for us here. Maybe a few thunderstorms coming off the mountains here as we head through the week, but that's going to be about it as we talk about relatively weak jet stream support across the Canadian Prairie as we head through the week. So I kind of just talked through the next several days for you, and you could see it was pretty quiet as far as organized precipitation goes. Again, during the afternoon and evening, maybe in the Calgary area, seeing some of these thunderstorms coming off the mountains, but otherwise not looking at any organized precipitation making its way through. This would be Tuesday. Here's Wednesday. And then as we get into Thursday, late week into the weekend, maybe talking about the chance of some ridge-riding storms coming up through at least Peace River into the northern portions of Alberta, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the forecast here and why I've got relatively low confidence on how that's all going to play out. Now here's the next 84 hours from the NAM model. Again, this is mostly what's going to be making its way through the next 12 to 18 hours, and then otherwise you see a big dry spot here across the primary ag region here. And then as we look at side by side, we've got the NAM on the left, the European on the right, very similar look. You see a lot of this falling over the next 12 to 18 hours on both of those, and then dry conditions here. You're seeing some splotchy amounts there, but when you look at the actual amounts, you're just seeing, the model trying to kick off maybe an isolated shower or storm, but nothing in the way of organized precipitation expected here. Again, you can see the hints of some thunderstorms coming off the mountains here across western and southern Alberta, but that is not going to be organized and producing any sort of widespread beneficial precipitation or anything like that over the next 3 to 4 days. Now, as we take the next 10 days, the next week, we're taking it all the way through Sunday, July 18th from the NAM model. This is where you start to see some of the ridge-riding precipitation making its way back in from Peace River into northern Alberta. But we kind of shift this thing north or south, and we make a big difference across either Peace River into northern Alberta or potentially downstream across the remainder of the Prairie. So it really depends on the intensity of the ridge, the location of the ridge here as we head into late week. So here's the next 5 days, and then days 5 to 10 on the bottom, and that's where you see that pattern change. Over the next 5 days, generally dry across the Prairie. And then as we get into the end of the week, early next week, right now the model's wanting to stack some precipitation up north of the region. And again, that would be ridge-riding precipitation. We'll look at the jet stream evolution here in just a couple of slides, but as we look at the temperatures there, generally on the mild side across the region over the next 5 days, but then if that ridge does set in, again, those ridge-riding storms, that's on the northern periphery of the main heat axis here, and that would be potentially setting up across western Canada, across the primary ag region here. So potentially treading hot and dry over the next 5 to 10 days, but as we often do with the rain-snow line in the winter, it can be kind of a day-to-day thing here as we watch the intensity of this ridge as it's portrayed in the forecast models, which we can do right now. We'll look at the 500 millibar height anomalies. This is from the European model. And as we get started here on Monday morning, here's the big cutoff low across the western United States. Kind of weak, disorganized flow across western Canada as we get things started. And it doesn't really improve. That's what we head towards a dry week. You can see ridging generally setting up here. You see the inverse U shape there to the height contours. But then you also see them relatively widely spaced out. You can see them kind of compact here coming around the base of this low in the Gulf of Alaska, but then they really get pretty spread out as you make your way into the ridge across the prairie. So weak jet stream winds and upper level ridging, that is the recipe for a dry week across anywhere you put that, but in this case it's going to be across the Canadian prairie. And then it's as we get into the end of the week, things get a little interesting. We start to nudge this trough a little closer to the coast here into British Columbia, and then you see these stronger jet stream winds coming around the base of that. This would set us up in a pattern that could favor some clusters of showers and thunderstorms as we get into the end of the week, into the weekend. And it's really going to come down to the individual little disturbances that swing around the base of that trough. And then again, the exact track of this upper level low, and then the exact track of some of the little short waves that could potentially be embedded within that. And then as we head deeper into next week, right now, the European model wants to really build that ridge in across the western U.S. into the Canadian prairie. And that really sets the table for a potentially hot week next week. This is what we're looking at as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week. So, your confidence starts to fall off when we get out into that range, but that is a pretty strong signal for some heat across the prairie provinces. And so let's look at the jet stream winds that accompany all of this. Let's bring it on back. Here's the little disturbance that's responsible for the showers and maybe a couple thunderstorms across Manitoba here as we go through the day today on Monday. You can see the little kink in the contours there, the brighter colors showing the stronger jet stream winds embedded within that. That is all that it takes in the summer months to kick off some showers and some thunderstorms. Now as we head into the middle part of the week now, getting into Tuesday and Wednesday now, you don't see any of that. You remember? We got the widely spaced contours there, weak jet stream winds, and that is what sets us up for a dry week here across the prairie. It doesn't take much, but it takes a little something to get the air rising there and convecting into our showers and storms. But what happens here as we get into Thursday, now Friday, getting into Saturday, really starting to swing in here on Sunday. Now again, we're starting to see those jet stream winds beginning to pick up. We're seeing the height contours closer together. On the leading edge of that trough, stronger jet stream winds, that would set the table for some showers and storms across the region. Confidence on specifics, that's something we're going to have to watch as we go through the next several days. So I guess my point is it looks reliably dry across the prairie through probably Thursday, maybe Friday. As we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm starting to entertain the idea of some showers and storms returning to the area, but I don't have real high confidence in the the widespread nature of it. Who is going to get it? Right now, I would say this sets us up for better chances for rainfall and thunderstorms across the western half of the prairie, and maybe a bit drier as you head off toward the east. But that's kind of how it looks here as we kind of peer out into day 7 and 10. Low confidence, but that's kind of the general vibe that I'm getting, trending maybe more active in the west. Bigger questions as you head further off to the east. So let's look at that with the precipitation forecast. I've kind of told you what I would expect to see. Let's see what the European model is giving us. Here's the rain moving out of southern Manitoba as we head through the day today. That's going to set us up for a dry Tuesday. This is a dry Wednesday. We're now having a dry Thursday. This is Friday. Starting to see those stronger jet stream winds come punching in here from the southwest as we head into Friday, Saturday. And now as we get into Saturday and Sunday, this is where you're starting to see more of the widespread precipitation being displayed across Peace River into northern Alberta. But as you head off to the south, this is where I start to wonder if we're going to get some thunderstorms coming off the mountains, some clusters of storms here, and maybe a risk of a couple severe storms. But again, we're way out here. We're into days 5 to 7. This is kind of just the evolution that I'm starting to see here. And the European model is going to struggle with the southern end of this here as we start talking about more isolated, scattered showers and storms potentially growing upscale into thunderstorm clusters. So that's what we've got. Follow along day to day with our daily report, of course, and be checking back on the customer portal and the employee hub. We'll finish with a look at the temperatures then. We'll just animate these, and as we get started early this week, on the back side of that little wave that's swinging through, temperatures pretty close to average, but we will see some ridging start to push in from the south and the west as we head deeper into the week, and that's going to help us warm up, especially as we get into the weekend and that ridge starts to amplify across the region. So be watching for those temperatures on the back half of the weekend into early next week to start to climb up into maybe the 30-degree range. But as it stands right now, temperatures kind of bounce in between the upper 20s and low 30s in Calgary. Similar look here in Edmonton. We'll look at things here in Saskatoon, warming up late week into the weekend, highs in the low to mid 30s. You see that same thing in Regina, and then Winnipeg. Again, as we get into the end of the weekend, early next week, bigger concerns for heat and drought as you head further to the east. I'm talking about maybe eastern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba. Better confidence in, better confidence in showers and storms returning. Peace River, northern Alberta, and then maybe even central and southern portions of Alberta, and then maybe even potentially western Saskatchewan. But we'll have to watch that as it gets a little bit closer. Hope you had a great weekend. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'll speak directly to you again on Monday, but we'll keep pushing updates out there to the Nutrien portal as we head through the rest of the week.